I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey everybody, welcome to the show tonight. You guys, thank you so much for checking out this very, very special, well, all of my interviews are special, but this is a live interview with someone who I first met in one of my live chats. And she stated she's had some pretty incredible encounters. So is her parents. And she's coming on tonight to share some of her parents' encounters as well as her own. But before we bring her on, I just want to say thank you so much, you guys, for supporting this channel. And I noticed that I have two new members. I have Jason Finch. Jason, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And Renee Drew, one of my moderators. Thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. I see you got a bunch of people who have been with this channel pretty much almost since day one. I cannot thank you enough. You guys, just to let you know that I drop new episodes every Wednesday and Friday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every Saturday night I'm changing the time, you guys. Now I'm going to start doing them at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Kind of give some people a chance to catch the lives when we start. Also, I don't want to conflict with some other people that do lives at the same time. So try to get some other, more people in. Also, Monday through Friday, you guys, I do morning with or coffee with Dano. And I start that at 6:45 and then around 7:45 Central Standard Time. Let you guys know that I will be trying to do one on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm going to be on vacation. So I'll try to get up in time to do those for you guys. There will be no Saturday night live stream this coming Saturday. I'll be at a Bigfoot conference in Tennessee. But I will be going live throughout the day. I'll hopefully get some special guests on. We'll do some chatting, kind of give you guys a little walk around on what's out there, what I'm going to be experiencing and things like that. So, but yeah, if you guys have had an encounter, you'd like to come on the show, you guys know where you can go. You guys can reach me at the Cryptid Podcast 72 at gmail.com. Again, the Cryptid Podcast 72 at gmail.com. You guys have talked too much. Let's go ahead and bring our guest on, Libby. Libby, what's going on?
Oh, yeah, it's hot out here in Florida.
Oh, it's a little warm. Well, it wasn't as warm. I just got to say something. I saw someone just pop in from Belgium. Sharon,
Wow.
greetings from Minnesota. Also, greetings from a fellow Belgian. I was born in Belgium. So whereabouts in Belgium are you from? Anna, hello. Welcome to the show. Everybody, welcome to the show. Libby, you and your family, parents, have encountered something that it's on one of my bucket lists. I'm telling you, of interviews. And you guys, I'm bringing it to you tonight. The skunk ape.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear about, well, before we do that, let me ask you this. Okay. Let's do this. So let's kind of get into a little bit of like your family history. So before we dive into the encounters, what is your earliest memory of hearing about the skunk ape in your family? And was it treated as a local legend or a real tangible creature?
Wow, that's weird because, like, I remember being very little and them telling me constantly that it wasn't real. And they made me watch Harry and the Hendersons, which makes sense now looking back because I'm fairly certain I saw it when I was very little. And they spent as long as I can remember trying to convince me that I didn't.
Okay. So whenever you brought it up, it was kind of like, you didn't see that. You're just imagining that.
Yeah. I had a bad dream when I was little. That's what they told me. But out just outside my window, there was this giant standing just outside my window with glowing eyes. And I told them I saw a robot and it smelled awful. And they're like, well, robots wouldn't smell, so you must have been dreaming, you know. And there was this man who came in from Barton, because I'm out by Barton, if you're familiar with the Barton Booger. And he owned a shop out there, and he ended up, owning a shop by where I live. And I went in there with my grandmother one time, and he had a huge statue of Sasquatch in the back of his store. And I went in and saw it, and he's like, "Oh, don't be scared, it's nothing." I was like, "Yeah, I know, I can tell it's not real because I can't hear it talking." And my grandmother did everything but cuss at him because he wanted to hear more about me talking to these things. And I was so little. And that's when it started with my parents telling me that they weren't real. And then they sold one.
So you kind of have a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm as a medium, as a clairvoyant medium. That kind of runs in the family. Also, I've had some near-death experiences.
Okay.
So that's not unusual for me, the paranormal stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and kind of get into, let's see what we have here. Can you walk me through? Yeah, let's walk. Can you walk us through your parents' first encounter? Kind of where were they at the time? What type of year it was, and maybe exactly what happened, if you can.
Okay, these people who told me Bigfoot wasn't real my whole life, right?
Yep.
I went over to their house one evening, and my dad said, semi-jokingly, he's like, "Well, the other night I saw something I can only describe as Bigfoot." And I was like, "Well, what did you really see?" And he's like, "I can only describe it as Bigfoot." And I was like, "Okay, tell me what you saw." And he said they were coming out of De Leon Springs, which is just east of the Ocala Forest at the end of St. John, where the lake starts. And something came out of the ditch to the right. And he said it was huge. It took a couple paces, and that's a giant ditch. It stepped down in the ditch, and it stepped up. And it just took 2 paces to do that, which is massive. And it stood up next to the bear crossing sign. And it was a foot taller than the bear crossing sign. Which out here, I think the average height on that is like 7 to 8 feet. Also, you're looking at the sign that says bear crossing, and you're looking at this monstrous creature next to it. It's pretty clear it wasn't a bear. So right. I'm like, well, could it have been a man like in a ghillie suit on stilts? Because sometimes you don't get a tree stand, they just have stilts. And he said no, because he watched it step down into the ditch and bend its knee proportionately, and then step back up, bending its knee, and then stood up straight. So it's bending in the middle. A man on stilts wouldn't bend his knee right there. And he said the arms came down. It was gray. It was mostly gray. Its head was gray. And it was like a darker, near black gray on the rest of its body, and its hands were black. And he said he just stepped over to the road. It took a couple steps, stepped over to the road, and it just watched the vehicle go by. And then it turned around and went back into the woods, like it was afraid that they were going to turn around and come back for it. And he said it was very clearly moving like a human, not a bear. And now my dad is a retired cop. He's a retired detective, but for a while he was chief of police, and he was the guy that you would call in Florida if a gator got into your swimming pool. He's seen a lot of wildlife, so I believe him when he says, if he had told me what wildlife it was, I'd have believed him. So I told him I'd look into it. I'd find out what he actually saw, and he said he would really appreciate that, because he's like, to tell you the truth, I'm really disturbed, because I'm very confused. I'd really like to know what it actually was. So he didn't even believe it when he saw it.
Man.
And then
that's a lot to unpack, because again, like you said right before you started telling the story, is that this is coming from one of the people that's told you up until that point that these things aren't real. Now, when your dad was talking to you, did you see like any emotion? Was he visibly shaken? Was he?
He was, he's a non-vet, he doesn't get shaken up easily, sorry. So he's got his hands like this, he's talking like this, and he keeps clasping them, and this is anxiety I'm not used to seeing in him, And just the relief when I told him, like, I'm going to look into it, I'm going to find out what you actually saw, I'm going to make it make sense. He was very clearly disturbed by it.
Well, when you told him that you're going to look into it and things like that, what steps did you take to try to get your dad some type of validation that, like, listen, Dad, what you saw was truly what you saw.
I didn't. I'm going to be
You
opposite. I was trying to disprove it, right? I was like, who is in this area dressing up like Bigfoot and pranking people on the side of the road? In the middle of hunting season with Florida man, you're going to get shot. Like, I'm going to hear about this. If somebody's making a Bigfoot suit, first of all, in the day and age where we are motivated by likes and clicks, they posted that online somewhere. You know, if you've learned how to make a Bigfoot suit, you probably have a YouTube tutorial on it, right? I'm going to find that, right?
Yeah.
No. And I've taken the 911 calls in the area, and I was disturbed to find, like, right in that area, they got a 911 call, 3 law enforcement officers were chasing an unidentified animal. They chased it into the woods. They said it was huge. 2 of them quit, and 1 of them took a death shot. They did not come back out saying they identified that animal. They came back out saying they're not going in the woods again. So
And this was 3 law enforcement officers. And how far away was
I'm pretty
that?
sure it's county,
How far away was that from your dad's sighting?
maybe 10 miles.
Really?
It was
And
within a 10-mile radius of that.
And about what time, like before or after?
That was like 2 years before.
2 years before.
Mhm.
So there are 3 former law enforcement officers, or 2 former and 1 current law enforcement, that have had a sighting of the skunk
Of
ape.
a giant unidentified animal in the woods. That was enough to make them leave the woods and refuse to go back in there. Well, shoot, I guess maybe 2 of them refused to go back to work.
Well, let me ask you this. How hard would it be for you to get me in contact with some of them, a couple of them?
Oh, that wouldn't be hard. You just give me a little time. I'll look it up. I can find it again.
That's what I'm talking about. Love it.
And
No, go ahead.
that was just one 911 call. There was another one. It was farther away. It was on the other side. A woman called in. She was over by a interstate overpass, something like that. She admitted that she had been illegally camping in the woods, but she called 911 and said, "Listen, you have to come out here. I just saw this huge animal rip this deer apart in front of me, and then it took off towards a very crowded suburb, a residential area. You have to come find this thing. There's this creature out here killing deer."
Mm-hmm.
And the 911 call operator, you could hear her tell her, trying to get her to admit that it was a bear or a cougar, a Florida panther, and she couldn't do that. She's like, I can't say it's that. And then 911 operator trying to get her to say it's that, and she's like, she can't. And because of that, no one came out. And I used to live in the city, and we've had a bear scare that come through the city. They call everybody. They call, they get the helicopters out. They call all the cars come around and find this bear in a residential area. It just doesn't seem like something Florida would do, because we get wildlife calls.
So we have a question real quick, and if you could answer this, because I mean you're local. So what's a skunk? What's a skunk Bigfoot or skunk ape? I thought there was only one breed of Bigfoot. So how would you describe a skunk ape over, say, a Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, or
I think ours were smaller. By comparison, when people describe ours, they're smaller. I think they smell more, but to be fair, it's hot out here, and they're living in the swamp, which is also smelling. So.
Yeah. How would you describe their temperament?
Of all the ones I've had interactions with, I'd say it's hit or miss. As a matter of fact, even the one that charged me, I think that was kind of fair.
Okay. So let me ask you, let's see here. So let's talk about, well, what year was that your dad had his encounter?
Well, I thought it was 2020, but I looked back and I think it was like 2022, late 2022 or early 2023.
So this is fairly recent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, because like the officers that chased that one, that was like 2019.
Yeah. And did he say about how tall he believed it was?
It was taller. He said it was a foot taller than that sign, and that sign is like 8 feet tall.
So we're looking at about a 9-footer. About how broad?
It was huge, and he said it was really muscular, like you could muscles. You know, this isn't something you get if you're like putting on a Halloween costume from a Halloween store and it's like this baggy, you know, outline of a costume. This is like, it was muscular. They said it was real calm. It walked there, it saw the vehicle go by, and it didn't cross the street. It knew what it was doing. I think that's what disturbed him. Because a bear won't stop.
Yeah. Yeah, that question was from, I believe it was Samuel. Samuel's in Australia. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty cool. And we got Dario in here. Buongiorno. Did I say that right, Dario? He's from Italy. He's one of the first people that I noticed that jumped in the chat that was from a different country. So it's always good to see him in here and see other people from other countries in. So let's see, Samuel, is there lots of Bigfoot or are they going extinct? Samuel, I tend to believe that they have not a drastic declining population, but I don't think that they're like endangered at all. Because I think they stay out of, areas that would potentially be detrimental to them. So,
well, I think just like every other wild animal in Florida, people are encroaching on their habitat.
Yeah.
And that's why you might see more.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, I thought the Everglades at one time was going to be kind of like a sacred area because the Everglades is huge, and now things are going on in and around the Everglades. So, I speak very good Italian. I don't really know much of it, but so let me ask you this: so your dad saw one? What was the next sighting that somebody in your family saw? Was it you or was it somebody else in your family?
Well, it wasn't that. The rest is just a realization that, well, if that's Bigfoot and Bigfoot's real, then all these other things were, you know. I fell down this rabbit hole. I found out that everything I thought I knew about this was from headlines and, weak arguments. And it just didn't make sense. And I got to where I was like, this thing might be real. This is crazy. So I called my aunt, who's my lifeline, when I'm not making sense. And I'm like, I fell down a rabbit hole. I think I believe in Bigfoot now. I need you to come help me. I need you to come save me and tell me this isn't real. And she's like, oh, I can't. Because see, the property, we all grew up on our family property. There was something out there was. And so she started telling me a story. She said, even when I moved back home to her father's property, she told a friend ran into her out here and said, are you back on your dad's property? She's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, but isn't that where Bigfoot is? And she's like, they're talking about this time that they were playing outside right around dusk. And this massive, she couldn't tell me how tall it was because it was out in an open field. This massive Sasquatch came walking through the property, like through the field. It was far away, but they like ran inside and they were watching it through the window. And she's like, to this day, she suppressed it because it was so unnerving. I mean, they were little. They were
So
like 15 years old. This thing was probably twice the size.
So your grandmother, you reach out to your grandmother and like, hey, please tell me these things aren't real. And she's like, I can't tell you that because when I was this age, we saw this thing walk out of the woods and cross an open field on our property.
Well, my aunt.
Oh,
she
your
grew
aunt.
up with my grandma. Right. And then she's only like 15 years older. She's really close to age to me. So like the same time that she was seeing this is the same time I'd have been having those nightmares that there was this giant robot outside my window with glowing eyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the eyes that you saw were self-illuminating.
Oh yeah. And that's when I strayed because I think I had seen it before. Like when I first saw it, I wasn't that scared. Because I mean, I was probably wearing my Star Wars pajamas right there. And that was, Chewbacca. I wasn't worried. But when he moved over into the darkness and his eyes like lit up, like they got brighter, it was the Iron Giant. And then it's a robot.
Wow.
I, freaked out.
And how old were you when this happened?
Maybe 3.
Wow. Okay.
And
So
this is that part of the interview where you talk about it getting tense, man. It's scary.
So that was like 20 years ago. No,
Two of those.
it's it's crazy, you know, because when you consider kids having memories, like what's your earliest memory? Like my earliest memory is sitting on this round, like oval shaped woven rug
Mhm.
in front of a huge console TV, black and white TV, watching the Mickey Mouse Club. That's my earliest memory.
Mine was a shape sorter when I
A
was
what?
really little. A
Oh,
shape sorter, with
yeah,
the different shapes and the different colors. And I
yeah,
remember being too young to understand the difference. And they said I must have been 18 months old because of where I was.
yeah.
So that was
So
the
then at
first one.
3, now where were you at when this happened?
I was home in my room asleep, and the
And
window was like right next to me.
whereabouts was this? You don't have to give us like an exact address, kind of maybe a county. You can give us a county.
Oh yeah, just a mile away from the Big Lake George in Florida, right along
Right.
the St. Johns River. Part of that area is the Ocala National Forest. If you want an idea of how rural that area is,
Yeah.
and I
Because
think the
you
window. I remember that my brother, if he stood outside, he could put his elbows in, so the window came to him, and he's 6 foot
okay.
tall. I think he's like 6 feet. And this thing, that's where its hip was.
Oh, so it was bending down to look into your window.
A little bit, yeah. And the window was
Wow.
huge.
Wow. So after your dad's encounter, between your encounter and your dad's encounter, had you encountered it before?
Well, after the people who told me my whole life that I wasn't seeing what I was seeing,
Yeah.
bubble kind of burst. And I remember I started listening to these stories of what people encountered. And I'm like, wow, that sounds really familiar. That sounds like this time that I was walking through the woods that I will never forget because it just had such an eerie feeling. And I didn't see a Sasquatch. I saw an owl on a tree, and then the whole tree moved and walked away because there's no such thing as Sasquatch. It had to be a walking tree. See now how ridiculous does that sound now? So yeah, a long time ago, when I was like 14, we had a panther running around our neighborhood, and everybody complained about it. It was a black Florida panther, and we had called Fish and Wildlife, and we had told them there was a black panther. They said there can't be because the population's not that big out there.
Right.
So you must have seen a cow. Well,
Hmm.
I was walking through a back road from my parents' house, trying to do this L, and I would take this back road instead of walking along the county road where there's traffic, and I'm not in anybody's way, and it's really cool back there. It's this oak hammock, and it's pretty, and I would walk back there, and I got about 50 feet from this black panther, and I saw it bite into a turtle, and it let me walk away. I started backing up real slow until I felt like, oh, I got enough, space in between me and it, and I'm gonna run. So I turn around and bolted. A cow won't bite into a turtle, and neither can a dog.
Yeah.
That was a jaguar or a panther. So a week later, I'm walking back. This is like right around time change. I'm walking back to my godmother's house. It's like a half mile away, and I take that back road. And because I didn't pay attention to the time change, I didn't realize how late it was. And I had to make the choice between whether I'm going to walk on the side of the county road at night or whether I'm going to go into the woods at night, knowing that there could be a panther out there. And I took the panther. I'm like, maybe it's bright because it's decent. It's like twilight. But I didn't consider how dark it was about to get under all those oak trees. So I had my backpack on me, and because there have been wild dogs in the neighborhood, I carried bottle rockets in my backpack just in case the wild dogs come up and you just set off a bottle rocket and they went off. So I
Right.
wasn't particularly worried about what kind of wildlife could be out there because I had like my bottle rockets. And then I kept this noisemaker on the back of my backpack. It was metal and it clinked. Like they tell you to do if a bear comes up, you
Hmm.
clink pots together. So I made sure it's like my backpack was jingling and it made a lot of noise. So whatever was in there, leave me alone. Because most things in Florida will leave you alone. A black bear or a panther, it'll take off. So I'm
Right.
like, okay. And I'm walked about a quarter of the way into this road that I have walked every day for years. And I get this feeling like you have to turn around. You have to turn around right now. And I'm like, well, that would add extra. I'm scared of that road. And I kept walking and I got hit just a few steps and I got hit with like a hangover. And I didn't know what that was back then, but like nausea and a migraine. I mean, just this splitting headache. And I was like, well, now I have to get home right now because I'm sick. Like my medicine's at home because I used to get migraines. I'm like, I have to go right now. So like I started walking faster. There's no way I can back up and go around. That'll take longer. And oh gosh, it got so scary, and I couldn't whistle back then. And I know I just made everybody in Nashville squirm because don't whistle in the woods. I'm sorry, but I couldn't anyway. But I was nervous, so I started singing. And the only song that came to mind back then was like Santa Monica by Everglades because it was popular on the radio back then. It was like, I just want to see some palm trees. But really, I was like, please let me see some palm trees. Please don't let me get mauled by something here. Let me live another day to see some more trees. And I was like, I'll try to shake away this disease. And I started hearing walking from where this road curved. I started hearing somebody walking, and it was somebody. And I told myself, it's that panther. And if it was that panther, it would have got me already. You know, it wouldn't have let me hurt it move. It would have just pounced on me.
Yeah.
And then I could tell it was louder. It started getting really loud, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's like some buck in the woods, and it's got big antlers, and it's making all this noise in the underbrush, and that's why it's loud." And as I kept getting closer to this noise, thinking it was just wildlife, and it was gonna be okay. And when I got to where we were probably 20 feet opposite each other, right? We hadn't crossed yet. I could very clearly tell it was bipedal. I could very clearly tell that was somebody walking on 2 feet in the Florida brush. You know, that's almost impossible for anybody to do. So I told myself it was my neighbor because there's this path that cuts through on the road that I'm on. There's this little trail just enough for one person to walk through without getting, cut up by all this, underbrush. And I'm telling myself it's my neighbor. And he's out here smoking his little putting cigarettes. And his wife said, not on our property. You better go up to the property line. You better not have that at my house. And that's it. And it's just my neighbor, and he's out here. And I'm going to ignore that he's out there. I'm going to act like I don't know who's out here, smoking his weed because I don't know about that. And let him just walk back to his house like he wasn't doing that. And we crossed, and I'm like, it's okay. So and I hear it walk right to the edge of where that trail started because it's behind me now. And I'm like, turn around. I turn around and watch him take that trail to his house. And then it's definitely your neighbor. Then it's definitely him. And that's what's out here. Because the deer wouldn't really want to go that way. So it's just him. Just turn around, and you're going to see him turn around and walk back to his house, and everything's going to be okay. And I turned around and saw very similarly what I saw when I was little. It was almost exactly what I saw when I was little. I just didn't make the connection at the time. It was an owl. It had big, round, glowing eyes, which I assumed it was catching the moonlight. And it had, like an owl would have, it had like a goatee. And one strand right here was real pale, like platinum blonde, and the rest of it was what I would say blonde. But for a owl, I would say tan, light brown. And it looked at me, and it's like sitting up in this tree. And because I'm superstitious, my family's Choctaw, so like owls are a sign of like an omen of death. So I didn't really want to make eye contact with it. Like I looked at it and I saw, oh, that's an owl, and I turned away kind of, but I was still kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye. Oh my gosh, it was staring at me so intensely. And I heard in my head, if you tell people there are monsters in the woods, men will come and they will cut down the trees. And I thought, oh gosh, not my trees. Like I felt that nausea again and that headache. And I was like, oh gosh, I couldn't think about any response to that trail of thought. I just turned around and started walking faster. And as I went to go turn around, I heard this thing slam on the ground. And this whole tree turned and started walking down the trail. But as I watched it through the breaks in the brush, it looked like it got down on all fours. And it was huge. It was like the size of a water buffalo running through the woods there, even on all fours. I can pause there, but that's not even the end of that story.
So you convinced yourself that you weren't looking at a Sasquatch or the skunk ape. You were looking at a tree that was moving.
Yeah.
And for some reason that made more sense to you
it didn't make any sense, and that's what I liked about it. I was like, you see what? It's dark and nothing makes sense. So you don't know what's happening around you, so don't pay any attention to it. Because this owl in this tree, and it all turned together and walked away. See, that's ridiculous. So you don't know what you're seeing. Keep your eyes down on the sand and don't look up, because everything in these woods is going to scare you, because all the shadows look crazy right now.
So what really caught me was you hear something bipedal walking, like walking towards you. And
Well,
then
I was walking. Mhm,
in your direction.
mhm.
And then you hear or you feel this overwhelming sense. You have a headache. You feel it's possible. Again, some people don't believe this, but it's possible that it hit you with infrasound.
It's exactly right. When I said I was looking into these stories, and all of this stuff started sounding familiar, like the smell, which I had wrote off as, well, this swampy right there, and I just saw that panther eating a turtle. So that's what that smell is. It's like the remains of the turtle in the swamp.
Yeah.
And um, the pacing next to me, like foot for foot, step for step, and then that terrible feeling. That's like a feeling you only get in a really haunted house. It's a terrible feeling.
And you know what's really crazy about this is, and you guys in the chat, anybody watching, you have to realize she is now encountered at age 14. She's encountered 2 creatures that are not supposed to be in Florida. Black panthers are not supposed to be in Florida. The DNR, even probably to this day, are going to tell you, no, we don't have any panthers we don't have any panthers in Florida. We don't have skunk apes. We don't. And here you are 14, you see 2 of them. And it's funny because I just read an article and I've seen now pictures from trail cams that in Arizona, there's only known to be 1. And can you guess what is living in Arizona? And they believe it's the only one in the United States.
Oh, wow. What is it? Is it a jackal?
A jaguar.
Okay, I thought I saw that headline. Yeah.
A South American jaguar. Because at one time they roamed most of that part of the United States. And they believe that they've now, because of hunting and population growth, that it kept pushing them further and further and further down into Mexico, then Central America, and then in South America. Yet they just saw one, and I think the time frame that they saw it from the first time to they just recently saw it was something like 10 years or 15 years. It was crazy. So if we could have a jaguar seen in Arizona, and people will believe
so Central Florida. Yeah, so in Central Florida, I mean,
then why won't people believe that, okay, here's a 14-year-old girl that has seen a Black Panther. Here are dozens of other grown men, hunters and everything, that'll say, we have Black Panthers in Florida. And the DNR says no. Okay, there is a large, hairy, sometimes aggressive animal that is also in the Florida Everglades that could be a Bigfoot. Nope, sorry, nope. I'm part of the DNR. I know what's best, and you're seeing a whatever. No, I just don't.
Yeah, a cow. It's a cow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So after that happened, after you got out of that area,
I wasn't out yet, but I got 2 more points to make on that.
Well,
because I thought,
hear about it.
If that was like an ape running off, I mean, why couldn't Florida man have an ape? He snuck pythons in here. They're taking over the Everglades. Oh, Carol Baskin's across Florida from me, and she's got tigers. Florida man's crazy enough to steal an ape, to bring an ape in. So, like, if somebody calls and says they're seeing something that's like an ape, why aren't they taking that seriously? Why aren't they coming in like, who got the ape? You know? Which one of y'all snuck the ape into Florida? And then, I forgot the other one. I wasn't the only one that saw that panther running around. Like, my godmother saw it, and she made sure that I had like patchouli on me, and like she sage for me before I left the house. You know, she's Native American too. So I smelled like earth when I was walking through the woods. I don't know if that helped or not. But I had come around the corner, like I said, that thing did an L. And I had, like I said, I pushed that stuff from my mind because I'm like, it's just the darkness, it's just the shadow. You don't know what's going on, so just keep your head down. Oh my gosh. I was walking between this cow pasture that they use during the day. But you know, cows, they move, they go home for dinner. And that's on the other side of the pond. And to the right of me is an acre of blackberries that, you know, I've come out there and I've got them before, but recently when I come out here, they'll just all be gone. And it's like a whole acre of blackberries. So I was like walking between this and I heard something in the cow pasture move and it sounded huge, right? So I'd be like, oh, it's a tree again, right? Because I'm thinking trees are moving. So I don't know what that is. It doesn't matter. And I get right up next to something. There's something there and it goes, I can't make the noise. You know the ones where the horse exhales? It makes that noise. And I told my, it was so much air that I could feel it around my feet. It was huge. Like it moved stuff around my feet, like twigs and stuff. It was such a massive lung capacity on whatever animal this was that I had to assume it was the bull that was sitting right next to me. Like I could feel it on my neck, this hot air. And I kind of was like, oh, shoot. But then I was like, oh, no, it's just a bull. And he's accidentally in the wrong field. And so he fell asleep on his fence. And that's all. And the same, as soon as I got past whatever that was, something to the right of me made this huge noise. It fell. I told myself, again, trees, right? It was a giant tree limb. Just fell down beside me. I mean, it shook the ground next to me. And I was like trying to think of the Lord's Prayer because I was so scared and I couldn't think of it. And it wasn't helping me because I was still so scared. So I started singing. I was like, sing something. I was like, I can't sing anything. I don't have music. And I'm like, sing a cappella. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, our God is an awesome God. And like, the noise got quiet behind me, like, and the other noise came back, like crickets. You know, the sound that the summer is supposed to make. And I started walking faster until I got to my neighbor's property line and I jumped into his yard, which I'd never do, and I ran to mine. I mean, ran. And I was so scared. When I got inside, like my mother could see it all over my face. I was like, why? She's like, you left a little late, didn't you? And I was like, I'm never doing that again. I just walked through the woods at dark. And I went in to ask my father, like, I think something was stalking me in the woods, and I know that panther was out there. And he was like, oh, yeah, panthers will do that. Don't worry about that. I was like, it could have killed me. And he was like, yeah, but it won't.
Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. So after you get over feeling kind of sick and you're trying to rush to get out of that area and you start moving and you get closer to where you need to be, you in the field, the pasture where the cows are, you know that there's no cows there because more than likely they have already moved on. Home. Yeah, they've gone home to feed. You hear something, and this thing is close enough to you where you can actually feel an exhale, like on your feet or
yeah, I could on my whole body. I could feel it push past my whole body. Like so. Also, I had heard humming right before that.
Let's paint a picture of your surroundings at that very moment. What was in front of you? What was behind you? What was to the left and right of you?
Behind me was about 10, 15 feet behind me was where that panther was eating that turtle, right? So it's right there at the curve in the road. And it's swamp. There's a puddle right there. It's like a sinkhole. And to the left of me is the cow pasture. And it's like an acre here, and it goes back a few acres. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how long that is. And then to the right of me is an acre of blueberries. And on the other side of that is a farm. And like chickens, pigs, everything over there is a farm on the other side of those blueberries.
Okay, my question is now I want you to shrink that down. Okay. I want you to shrink the area around you, because here's the thing. If this thing's out in the field, out in the pasture, because you said, oh, that must be the bull. These things had to have some serious lungs. If this thing is, and I'm not saying that this didn't happen. I think you're generalizing just in the overall area instead of the immediate area around you. Were there bushes right next to you? Were you on a path?
I was on this road, and the fence is like right there. Like if I reached out like this, it would touch. I would be touching barbed wire fence. Which, another reason why a cow wouldn't have. The cow would have had
Yep.
to have its head over this barbed wire fence to be that close to breathe on me.
And you said it hit around. You felt it kind of hit around your feet, lower leg area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think the possibility that this thing was laying on its stomach watching you? And when it exhaled, it did that just to let you know, like, hey, I'm here and you can't see me.
Oh, oh man, I don't even know how many were to my left and to my right.
Yeah.
Because it occurred to me after this that something either jumped down out of the tree to my right or jumped over me to my right. But something jumped, something fell there. So I came back later when I could walk through that road without getting freaked out. And there was no tree that could have fell right there.
Right.
This was a clearing, an open acre of just blueberries or blackberries.
Also, where is the closest marsh or swampland that's around you, would you say?
I'd say that swamp right behind me. But I sent you a map and you can see all those waterways. And
Okay.
there's a lot of
So you guys,
of water out there.
I'm going to try to bring up some stuff here. Let's see here. So here is a general area. It doesn't give much detail, but it does let you know where waterways are. And with this, so as you guys can see, we're looking at just like an overhead map, just a generalized map, and you've drawn.
The blue line on the right side is the road that I was taking. And the little purple that shoots off of it, that's that trail that it turned down on. So where I'm talking about now, I would come around that curve and I'm on the line on the bottom, like the lowest line there. I'm walking along that line. So all of that water behind me is marsh and swamp. All at the bottom right, all of that was to my back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to kind of freak you out or anything like that, but I mean, think about this.
It freaked me out. I can still feel it. Like it breathed on me, man.
And people who are jumping in right now, and or you just might haphazardly be listening. This young lady at 14 years old decided to take a shortcut to get home on time. First, she sees a panther feeding on a turtle. Okay. Now, a lot of people know, I'm sure it wasn't right up next to her, but when an animal is feeding, they're normally not really going to pay attention. If you're far enough away, they're not going to pay attention. So now she sees this. Now this is on her radar. Now she's past that already. She hears all of these commotions that are around her. She thinks she sees a tree moving because that made more sense to her. And I'll be telling you, 14, that's probably would have made more sense for me as well. Then she comes to this area because now she's getting close. She's at the cow pasture. She knows the cows are already in for the night because that's what they do. And as she's kind of stops because she hears a noise, she feels this exhale blow across her feet and her lower legs. And then she hears something off to the other side of her, either falling out of a tree or jumping out of a tree. But then think about this, you guys. Close your eyes and think about this. It's nighttime. It's dark.
It's dark.
You know the area. You've been around here a whole bunch. So you feel kind of secure in this area because you know this route. Then you feel that exhale You don't see nothing. It's barbed wire fence. But then there's the outside possibility that this big boy was laying on his stomach and he exhaled across your pathway to let you know, guess what? You're not alone. I'm here. And there's
And then
nothing you
make the
can do
noise.
about it. Yeah. And then
So I
there's not,
felt surrounded.
yeah. And again, how high do you think that grass was? Just a guesstimate. I mean, it's nighttime. It's not like they're gonna weed eat around the fence. So would you say it was what, maybe shin to knee deep?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh,
It
this
was
thing,
definitely 10 out of 10. But no, I could
this,
feel it up here too. So it
this
was
thing
like
was
waiting for me.
laying in wait for you. This thing was just
Yeah.
letting you know that he was there, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, I mean, it could have been his bedroom, and I walked through there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if they lived there, I've walked through their house. I'm not even the kind of person that wants to accidentally be in somebody else's yard. Like, can you imagine somebody just walking through your house? I mean, just in the middle of the night, just barging there.
You guys, every time that we go out in the woods, we're walking into their living room, their bathroom, their kitchen, their bedroom, whatever.
Hmm.
So after that happens,
After that
what
happened, I ran inside.
I was gonna say, what motivated you to move faster than you already were?
Well, actually, right before that happened, I said I had heard humming.
Yeah.
And I told myself that was my imagination, or that was like maybe a cow in its sleep. That's why I decided all this was a cow. It's in the cow pasture. It made this noise, and then I heard this big snort, and all this hot air, and then there was something right next to me. So I couldn't think of anything
Yeah.
but to sing.
14. Okay, so now 14 goes by. Well, so you get home. Who was the first person you ran into when you got home? Your
Well, my
mom.
mom, right? And she acknowledged I was like white as a ghost. And said, I bet you'll not do that again. I stay out too late. I lost track of time because of the time change. And then I ran to tell my dad, who, he would know more about it, like I said. So I was like, I think I got a little too close to that panther out there. I could hear it in the woods. He was like, I was like, it was walking next to me in the woods. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's definitely the panther then. Because the panther will walk next to you in the woods. And they'll just stalk you. They're not going to hurt you if they wanted to attack you. What happened? And I was like, yeah, but like, it could have killed me. He's like, yeah, but it didn't. So nothing
Yeah.
to worry about.
This is coming from the man who told you that skunk apes don't exist, Bigfoot doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist, and then fast forward a decade or so, and yeah, he comes to you and says, "Hey, guess what? I think," and you're like, "No, you did." So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he
that
agrees now. Yeah.
that's crazy. So let me ask you this: so after that encounter, did you have anything else happen?
That may have been my last, and I just started working backwards from memory. Because as it turns out, once I realized what that was, there had been a couple weeks before, I was walking down that road and I saw tracks in the sand of somebody running through there, back there barefoot. And this is Florida. There's rattlers, there's water nearby, so there's moccasins. Like you can't just run around there,
Mm-hmm.
barefoot. I had boots on, and somebody's walking around there barefoot, and their foot looks different. Like that print we were talking about. You have a
Yep.
picture of that? It doesn't look human. It just looked really odd. I kept looking at it like, whose weird feet are these? Not only are you not wearing shoes, but you got weird feet. Like, is that why you're not wearing shoes? Like, are you uncomfortable? Because those aren't the tracks people make in sand. And I'm out, by the beach. I'm used to
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah. Someone asked, could it be a gator? And my initial thought is no. And the reason I think that is, I mean, I've heard, I lived in Florida. I lived in Lakeland. I lived in Newport Richey, and I lived in Daytona Beach. I've seen gators. I've heard alligators. I've never heard an alligator exhale. And
Not
I've heard
snorting
noises
it.
they make. Yeah. But also a gator is not going to exhale from like your foot up to, you said up to your shoulder.
It was down.
Yeah. So I would say no. Now, is it possible for a gator to kind of wander? Absolutely. A gator's going to go from water source to water source if it needs to. But for the most part, I just don't see a gator sitting on the side of a trail like that. Mostly at night, they're going to be in the water. Yeah. So
Right. Yeah, at that hour they're usually in the pond.
yeah,
You know,
gators
and
hiss.
they make a lot of noises. They do make a lot of noises. That wouldn't have been what I thought of. That's what I was going to say. See, if there's an ape-like creature out in Florida, like even if Florida man got himself an ape and it got loose, I would want to know because since I was little, they taught us how to run from gators. They taught us how to recognize a snake that will kill you or a spider. I mean, they've taught me my whole life about safety around animals, and now you're telling me there's an animal out there that's unknown. And I mean, there's 1,500 pounds of evidence found every year that can't be tested or identified as any other animal. It is unknown. And you're telling me there's this giant thing out there, and you're not telling us how to defend ourselves against it. You're not telling us the warning signs. You're not telling us, what we should do to protect ourselves or where we should not go. You're not going to see me swimming in the swamp in Florida. Somebody could have told me I shouldn't have been out in the woods that night.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I really wish that I was able to check out locations and things like that. Because I want to see these things for myself. I mean, like I said, I've seen one in Graham, Washington. You know, I want to experience one in Oklahoma. I want to experience one in East Texas. I want to experience the Mogollon monster, the Mogollon Rim. Down in New Mexico area, and I want to go to Australia and see a yowie and a brown jack. I want to see the Ohio grass, man. I definitely want to go up to Alaska because I find all these things fascinating. There's no way that anybody, you know, I can't dismiss a lot of these things. I just can't.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. Like, if somebody explained it to me, because I went looking and I found more questions than I found answers, and I expected to get answers. I expected to come back and tell these people they saw something that was totally explainable and everything would be okay.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy because I definitely, believe, that you have so many people from so many different walks of life that have seen the
Yeah,
exact same thing or similar things for
yeah,
them not to be real. It's not like, you know, back in the day when I had my encounters, it's not like it is now. There's chat rooms and there's Facebook groups and there's blogs and there's forums where hundreds of thousands of people can join and talk about these things, right? But when
yeah.
I
You
was
can get a
around,
scanner.
yeah, exactly. But when I was around, you didn't have people gathering. Okay, let's all come down with a story, and
Yeah,
it's going to be like this, and then we're going to spread it like wildfire. You just didn't. You just
yeah,
have it. I didn't know about sightings in Graham, Washington
yeah,
before I had mine or after I had mine. It wasn't until probably 2 months ago that I have emails in my email address in my email box from two women from Graham, Washington, who knows the area that I had my encounter, can validate that they have also seen Sasquatch in that area.
and described it the same because some of these
Exactly.
are like different. Like my father said, his was like gray and like
Yeah.
black, and what I'm talking about had a streak of blonde in his little on the hair on his face. I mean, that's not a detail that you would add just because it's Tuesday night. Like I saw that.
Mhm.
There'd be no reason for me to add that.
Yeah. It's just crazy. So after your dad comes forward and says that he has this, what other things do you know? Hey, what's up, Jojo? What other
When I
things?
saw that scene, because there was another time when I went to him, because I've been walking back there, and I walked back down that road, and there was these giant, like 4 foot, 5 foot tall monkeys in the trees on the other side of all this country. Because they're like 2 acres that was cleared out of trees, and it was just country vines there. And on the other side of it, I could clearly see these two trees that were, this side of the tree line, and there were giant, like apes in those trees playing around, like chimpanzees. And I didn't think anything of it because it's Florida, like I said. So, like, we got monkeys. Somebody could have had a monkey. I don't know. It's not my business. I kept walking. I didn't know back then how dangerous like chimpanzees would be. That's a giant ape. That's scary, right?
Yeah,
But like I came home and told my father like what I had described what I saw, and he's like, "Oh, we don't get those kind of monkeys." I'm like, "I know what it's called."
yeah.
I mean, they were making the noises and everything. They were swinging from the trees, and that was the same time I said like I had seen those footprints in the sand.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because there are you can look them up. There's even news reports of monkeys that escaped that live in the Florida Everglades. I mean, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's see. There's a huge black cat with a monkey face at Mount Adams, Washington. The click.
Well, this would be out by Silver Spring, where they did, was it Tarzan? They filmed out here, and then
Yeah,
supposedly all the monkeys got loose. So that's where I am. So we have monkeys, but we didn't have that size. Like what I was describing would be like an ape,
yeah,
but I didn't know that back then.
yeah. That's bananas. So someone just put something here that really caught my attention. Um, so Renee says there's a huge black cat with a monkey face at Mount Adams, which is in Washington. The I don't know how to pronounce that. Clint cat, ape cat. I'm gonna write that down because I want to check that out. I love hearing about things like this. If that's true, Renee, I'm gonna have to do some digging and maybe do a Saturday night live stream on that. So it's
Sounds
KLI
like something from Mayan art.
ape cat. Okay, yeah, and I've even heard. I mean, cat people and things like that. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I would definitely like to find something out like that. But so,
There's
so
another one.
that's what I want to know. What do you got next?
But couple years before, I saw these, 4 to 4 foot tall monkeys in the trees. A couple years before this, I was walking the other direction, and this is like a mile and a half to another friend's house that I would walk, and I would cut through along property lines like I usually do. I take little shortcuts through the woods. Otherwise, you're adding a whole another half mile to the trip, right? And I went down Old Church Road, and I cut through between the church and the community building, between the cemetery and the basketball court. And then I walked along this tree line to my friend's house. And I remember thinking it was like February because the wind was blowing. And I kept thinking I heard like whistling and strange noises in the trees and like movement around and stuff. And these trees next to me. And I didn't pay that too much attention. I wrote it off as like the wind. And when I came back from my friend's house, walked along that tree line again. And I thought I heard a baby crying.
Ooh.
And I told myself that was somebody's goat. It was off in the distance, but there would be a baby in the woods. And as I'm walking and I'm trying to ignore the sound, it becomes more and more obvious that it's close
Mm-hmm.
and that is definitely a baby in the woods. And I'm hearing something walking next to me again. And I'm trying to see it, you know, because like it's that terrible feeling you get when something is like a haunted house. And I have experience with being able to see these things. So I'm trying to see it. Things cannot hide from me. Not since I was a little kid. If there's an evil entity there, I'll be able to see it. And I couldn't see what was walking next to me. And I should have been able to. There wasn't any brush. This was all cleared out. This was just pine and pine needles. Nothing was growing in there. And it's walking next to me and I'm hearing strange noises, right? So I'm thinking it could be any kind of animal, but this is clearly bipedal. This is clearly some like evil spirit trying to scare me. And I'm hearing a baby cry very clearly in the woods. By the time I get to the corner of the tree line, right before the property of the church starts, I clearly hear a baby crying, and I just couldn't help it. I turned and I went to go run in the woods, and this thing came at me, and I couldn't see it. I could only see it moved in the ground beneath like the pine needle shifting, and this roar, this noise, and it looked like a wall. It looked like like a heat signature. Like the air moved in front of me, and I got hit with this ball of noise. So I turned back around and run, and I've never run so fast in my life. I run through the cemetery, and I'm thinking I'm going to misstep. I'm going to hit one of these footstones. I'm going to fall, and this thing right behind me is going to get me because it felt like the ground was shaking behind me. And I'm just instinctively, immediately remembered where every footstone was. And I'm hopping through the cemetery. I'm running so fast, and I make it over to the sidewalk that travels between the church and the community building. And I turn around because I was thinking this was evil. And I know this cemetery, this like, you know, you're not going to come through holy ground. If it's an evil spirit, whatever it is, superstitiously assume it's a grim, it's not going to come get me through the cemetery. If I could just get through the cemetery and get to the other side. So I turn around and I see this massive, and I sent you a picture to show you like just about how big this thing was. I kept looking at it, and the basketball hoop to like gauge the size. And this thing came up to the size of the basketball hoop, like right there in the center, under that blue dot. It was standing there. And I turned around and I was like, yeah, I didn't think you checked me through the cemetery. And it starts going like this. And I hear this noise that sounds like I heard somebody else describe it. It sounded like a record going backwards, or when you'd rewind the tape. That was the perfect way to describe that. And I was like, definitely evil. Because remember, like when back in the day, they used to be like, oh, they're sending like satanic messages in the records. If you play them backwards, you can hear them talking about Satan. So I was like, definitely an evil spirit. Because you sound like a record going backwards. And it starts shaking its hand when it's saying it. And it's like its right hand, because the side of it's really dark and I can't see it. And it's going like this, and it starts shaking its hand while it made all these noises. And I could see the top part is off. Everything else is black. The top part is like, it's fuzz. It's whatever this is, it's hairy, and it's like a light brown because the sun is just hitting that part. And when it was going like this, I was like, oh, well, we're being animals. Okay, so I like keep my feet like a rooster, like I smoked you. I beat you to the cemetery. So you have to stay over there. You cannot follow me out here. And so I started walking home, and this used to be, you know, it's cleared out now, but back then it was mostly woods. And I hear something chasing me through the woods. That time too, I was hearing noises in the trees. I was getting pine cones thrown at me, like acorns being tossed. I mean, hard. And I was sitting there telling myself, wow, those squirrels were really mad at each other, you know? And just assume it's some other, I just completely forgot that happened and just went about my day, because whatever that spirit was clearly, in my opinion, attached to the church or that property, and it couldn't follow me out. But something did. I mean, looking back now, from what other people describe, like, what's throwing pine cones at you in the woods, you know?
Yeah. You have someone here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Gotta find them. Where'd they go?
Kristen, thank you. Because, yeah, that reminds me, that was my friend Kristen. That's who I was going to see. And I talked to her about all these weird things that had happened on her property. I'm going to have to let her tell you because it's a lot. Okay, there was a time when I was at her house. This is another reason I just connect evil spirits to like that property, because I was over at her house. Her brother was sitting in his room listening to Kurt Cobain, because for some reason these guys like Nirvana, right? Sitting in his room, and something comes up to his window and starts talking. And he's talking to it. He was like, he smoked weed that day, so he's high. So he just thinks that he's high, and that's happening because he's high. It's something outside of his window sounded demonic. And he's laughing demonically. And it's like, he's making it say things like in English, and then he would explain to it what he said, and it would laugh at him. Like they were understanding each other, and we were trying to explain to him that we could hear that too. Like, that's not, you're messed up in the head right now. Stop talking to that, like whatever that was. And we hear tapping and knocking all over her house. She still has stuff going on out there.
You know, hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. This is my first ever super sticker. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know, and it's really, Kristen, friends here with Libby, definitely get a hold of me. I'd like to hear what's going on around your place. But, you know, here's the thing. Whoever was talking to whatever was outside the window, you know, do you think that when you hear it laughing and you say it's demonic laugh, you have to look at,
it was just deep.
It's a deep laugh. You think about, you know, how big these things are. Oh, look,
Mhm.
JoJo just got me with one too. This is awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it so much. Um,
Yeah,
just
because I had to tell Kristen, I was like, listen, go listen to the Sierra sounds. Tell me that's not what that thing was outside
oh,
his brother's window.
you guys want to hear something? You because you know Ron Moorhead, right? You know who Ron Moorhead is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I consider Ron
Yeah.
a friend of mine. Okay, Ron sent me these like right from his audio library. So let's see here. This is one of my favorite audios that he's sent me. It's one of my favorites. You guys check this out.
Oh my gosh. Did you hear that, Kristen? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that you
Oh,
guys. And here's another thing, again, you guys, thank you so much for the super stickers. Honestly, I've only seen super chats, and that's awesome. Thank you so much. And then look, there's another one, and you guys, awesome. Thank you so much. Renee, I'll look for that link. I truly appreciate that. Here's another thing that Daryl, not Daryl, but Ron had sent me as well. Check this one out. Now you'll hear a human talking or trying to imitate, and that's Ron himself trying to imitate what he hears.
Right there, just seen movement right through there.
I've
Yeah,
heard that one.
that's.
That's-
I'm telling you, when I hear people talk about wanting to hear audio and stuff like that. So the first audio that I played that was from Ron. He explained it as it was a male and a female Sasquatch arguing, and from what he said, because he watched this happen from a distance. Not like he didn't see the whole thing, but he saw them moving to that area, like moving down like a hillside or something. And he said it sounds like the female got the better of the conversation. Like
yeah, I
she
think
won that
that might be how
conversation.
they roll.
And then the other one, the second one, that's very well known samurai chatter that you hear a lot of people play. That he actually watched that male Sasquatch move down a hillside, cross a stream, and then go off into the other side of the stream. And then later that night, that's when that conversation took place. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. And have you ever heard any of those type of sounds? And your friend in chat, is it Kristen? Is that how you say her name?
Mm-hmm.
Has
Yeah,
she
Chris.
heard any of those types of sounds? If not, let me play two more for you guys to see if you guys have maybe heard something. This comes from Daryl Adams, who at one time owned property in Oregon, and the property was nicknamed Owl Moon Lab. And here's some audio. And then
Wow.
here's another one. And then this
Yeah,
one,
I've heard,
this one is, this one sounds like it's very angry. This one.
yeah.
So, yeah,
I've
that's
heard all kinds of stuff near my place.
really,
So we would have rode off with, wildlife and stuff like that. I've heard my name being called, by my father, who would not be back there. That's not his property.
wait, whoa. Wait a minute. So you're saying while you were out and about, wherever in that area, you heard your
Yeah,
dad
long time
calling
ago.
you.
3 times it was my dad, and he has a very distinct voice because he's mostly Choctaw, but he's also a little bit Creole, and he has a very distinct accent. And then like 3 times it called my name, and then 3 more times it called my name like my neighbor who actually owns that property, and he's like really well read, like Shakespearean, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they really over enunciate it. Yeah, and I was just like, that's ridiculous. I wonder who would be out there. I got the common name, and it was like, I wonder who would be out there.
Yeah.
It sounds like my dad.
Yeah.
And then one time I went out there, okay, I think it was after the one that was really intense where they were like breathing on me. I went back out there and I got that weird feeling again, and I was like, wow, you need to turn around. I was like, no, it's nothing. I'm just worried that somebody's out here because, it's a cash crop and people come out here sometimes to work in these crops. And I heard that samurai chatter really loud, and I didn't understand it. I thought somebody was on the had a car radio on really loud,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like tuned into some radio channel that it's Florida. I've heard all kinds of languages out here. I didn't pay much attention to it. And then when I went to go around the corner, around the bend, expecting to see a bunch of people in the field, there was somebody there, and I heard really loud like, "You're not supposed to be here," which is nobody's ever said that to me out there.
Yeah. Hey,
So
real
I
quick,
was like,
is there any way you can get a little closer to your mic? A couple people saying they have a little hard time hearing you.
all right, might be longer than you.
And someone also asked, do you investigate and know Bigfoot tree signs? Does she know what to look for?
Yeah, with now. That now that I was within the last like 2 years, because like I said, until recently, I didn't acknowledge that any of this was bad.
Yeah. I got a
But yes,
request.
thank everybody for doing that.
Yeah. Someone asked, is that a Christmas tree behind you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm hiding it up here. I don't use this part of my house, so also
Nice.
if you see like Mrs. Worcester with the log from the fire coming to attack me, tell me because this is part of the
Yeah.
house I don't use.
Well, I have a request. Someone wants to hear the chatter again, so I'm gonna play it again real quick. How about that? So we'll play these. I love this chatter. I think I might make it my ringtone. Yeah, the part of that when you hit the end, it goes gobble gobble gobble. That just kind of yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, let me ask you a couple more questions. See what I got here. Let's see here.
Well, I think I was going to mention that, like, I really do think there was a baby in those woods, and the fact that I was about to run after it, is what got me charged.
So, I mean, when you hear that, I mean, it's just human nature. It's just it's human nature when we hear a baby crying. We immediately
Yeah,
want to go to try and see if there's something we can do to help it. But I mean, the thing is if you hear your name called, you hear whistling, you hear a baby crying, a woman screaming, um,
hmm
the
yeah. I don't
last
believe
thing you
that's them trying to. Yeah, I don't think that's them trying to lure us in there. I don't think they want us in there. I think if you go in there, you're definitely going to get hurt, but not because they wanted to, but because you're interrupting, their life. you're walking into their home. You
Yeah,
almost walked into her nursery.
but I think they know because I've heard encounters where a child has been lost in the woods, and a female Sasquatch has picked it up and moved it to an area where it can be found. Now, I'm not
I
making that up.
also think,
I've heard that
hmm
before. So
I have too. And from the kids say,
yeah,
yeah, descriptions from kids saying they were with a bear man,
yep.
you know.
And then
I also think like,
I've even heard even a recent story. Well, it's an old story, but I just saw it that um, there was a female gorilla, and there was a small boy who fell into the enclosure, and
yes,
he was crying, and the female gorilla walked over to the child and comforted it, and kept the other gorillas away from it, and then she carried it to the door where
yeah,
the the people who worked in the enclosure could save the little boy. And I
yeah,
mean, it's just I think that it's one, when you hear something crying or mimicking a voice or something like that, it is just, there's no reason for you to even think about going into the woods, um
yeah,
because you have to really listen to it closely. Now, if you hear a
yeah.
woman screaming, a lot of people, you'll hear, oh, it could be a mountain lion, it could be some type of a cat,
Yes, heard that whole
which is
life.
true.
Yeah.
So you just want to be careful with things like that. So, um, after you had most of these encounters, what was it like after this? Like the days or the
When
weeks
I
after?
realized,
Yeah,
that that's what was going on, or like
yeah,
back then, I don't know. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder um, what they are. You know,
hmm
um, what kind of connection there was. I'm certain, like the one I, the one I thought was a dream as a kid, because I
hmm
could tell that thing thought we were just so cute. Then I think babies and maybe even us as adults look like babies to them, which would explain a lot of kidnappings. Like there
hmm
was this feeling that it could almost not resist trying to take us, like a toddler would grab kittens. You
Well,
know?
I remember I had an email. Someone sent me an email a long time ago, and she was younger. I want to say under 5. She used to wear this coat that was like a faux fur coat. And one day, I guess she got lost in the woods, but she was wearing the coat. And this Sasquatch snatched her up
Yeah.
because the way she described it in the email was that they believed that she was a lost
Yeah.
Sasquatch,
Mm-hmm.
and they started to care for her. And then when she was able to take the jacket off, they were like, "Oh," she said
Yeah.
she remembers the expressions that they had, and it was kind of like, "Oh crap,
Yeah.
we did something wrong here." And they picked her up and carried her out of the woods and put her like near her backyard so she could go home. But she'd been missing for a couple of days.
Uh,
It's crazy.
I hadn't heard that one, but that confirms what I'm like. I think I felt. I think they feel that way.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's a very strong, like if there's instinct, I think theirs is really strong in that. If you have to take care of the kid. That's why I'm shocked that thing only charged me. I think they're really protective, which they
for
would have to
sure.
be. They live in the woods.
Oh, for sure.
They live outside.
Absolutely. You know. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I don't know. It's probably some little details, but I'm sometimes.
No, that's good.
It's
Make sure
emotional there.
it is, but hopefully, you know, uh, one, send me a friend's request on Facebook. I'll invite you to my group, and then you'll see we've got a lot of people that are very active. We're trying to build that community as much as I possibly can. But have your friends check out this live. Shoot me an email if they've had any encounters. I'd
Yeah.
like to hear from it. So
Yeah.
I started doing when I do live interviews. I'm starting to do what I call like the Crazy 7. And what the Crazy 7 is, it's just 7 random questions that are fun because, like I said before, I asked you if it was okay if I ask you these because some people may not want me to ask them. silly questions. The reason I want to ask these questions, or I like to ask these questions, because I want to get to know you outside of this is a person who had an encounter. I kind of want to take your mind off of it because of everything we just discussed in the last hour or whatever. And I kind of want people to understand who are watching this that, you and me and other people's had these we're not crazy. We
No, I'm just a person, man. I don't
exactly.
think anybody wants. That's the other thing I'd add is that I remember when my parents told me this, and me and my husband were talking about it, that I was certain that people don't land on Bigfoot. It's not the first place you go when you think you see something. Kind of like that saying, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Your brain doesn't land on Bigfoot.
No, it doesn't.
Every other, it's a cow. It's an owl in a tree. It's a walking tree, but it could be Bigfoot. Because people don't do that. So when these people say that's what they saw, they thought of every other option before me.
Well, when I saw mine, I knew immediately what it was. Now, I'm not saying that was like the first thought in my mind, because again, so quickly my mind went bear, no, deer, no, something else, no, something else, no. Holy crap, that's a Bigfoot. And when I was a kid, I was so into Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. I was more into Bigfoot because there was a book in our library at school that I checked out for the entire year. When it's time to turn it in, I turn it in and I would check it out right back again. So I hogged it the whole time.
Oh,
people saying they're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So here's the 7 silly questions. Okay. And they're rapid. So first thing comes to your mind. Okay, ready? Favorite color?
Pink.
Pink. Favorite cryptid?
Oh, Bigfoot, yeah.
Favorite food? Pizza. Okay. Name a famous person you have met.
Christopher Lloyd. Oh, Doc, man.
Okay,
Come
cool.
Back to the Future.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
I don't know. I don't really
You just like ice cream? Okay.
I don't know.
Favorite beverage?
Coffee.
Coffee. And yes or no, pineapple belongs on pizza?
Hey, whatever you want to do, man. Maybe not on my pizza, but it can be on your half. I'm not judging anybody on the pineapple, man.
All right. Well, that's all I have for tonight.
Well, thanks, man. I'm going to be listening a lot because I'm trying to draw this graphic novel about cryptids.
Okay.
And y'all going to keep me company and motivated. I'm going to be listening
Awesome.
while I draw. So I appreciate y'all so much.
Well, what I'm going to do.
You and everybody who comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here. If you have questions, concerns, if something happens, I'm here. Let me know. I have no problem sitting down and talking with you and giving you what I think.
Yeah.
Again, you guys, I'm not an expert on this at all. Really. Wait, can you please play the 3 audios again? Okay, here we go. I'm going to play the 3 audios again. Actually, you guys, I'm going to play some different audios. I'll play 3 separate audios. Okay, here we go. And I'll explain where these are coming from. So this audio comes from a friend of mine named Jimmy Williams. I met him on TikTok, and he's been on my show. And he's out camping with his dad in an area that he calls Oklahoma's Area 51. Take a listen.
I heard. Ooh, that's a different sound.
Now, that last whoop, I asked Jimmy, how far away was that? 40, 50, 60 meters? He's like, it was within 20 feet of our campsite. This one is from one of my co-hosts, Sabrina. And Sabrina, well, you guys tell me what you think it is, and I'll tell you what she thinks it is. What do you think that is?
Is that one of them? Because I don't know them to make a sound. Because I mean, like I said, I've walked through the woods and I've sing, and they don't sing back, but they'll make bird noises that sound real similar.
What she believes now Sabrina used to go out with a team, and they would investigate for hours and hours and hours. And she believes that was exactly, Tanya, a female Bigfoot singing.
Awesome.
And then let's see, what else do we got here?
I think they like singing and they like music.
Oh, I could tell you they do like singing. For sure, they like singing. Here is what D.A. Roberts sent me this audio, and well, I'll tell you, it was caught on a ring camera. So check this out. Check this out.
Here we go. What do y'all think of that?
What do you guys think that was?
That wasn't him. It definitely wasn't him.
What do you guys think that was? That, according to D.A. Roberts and the person that caught that audio, believed that was an actual dog man howling.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
It almost sounded mechanical. I understand what people mean by that now.
Yeah. It's crazy. So, again, I can't thank you enough for
having me, man.
It was awesome. And I'm just going to let you guys know, I sent one to Dano too. It's weird. You know what? Let me go ahead and look for that, Sienna. I'll look for it, and I'll definitely get that in my play on my all of my stuff. So, but you guys, I just want to let you know that I am going to take a short break, and then I'm going to come back on a live on my phone. And if you guys want to come on back, check it out. We'll just talk about whatever. All right. Talk about tonight. We'll talk about what's coming up and answer some questions. How's that sound? Good? All right. Libby, thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, y'all.
I'm going to say probably about 8:45. Okay? About 8:45, Samuel. 8:45 Central Time, my time. So, again, thank you, Libby, so much for coming on. Everybody, thank you for coming into the chat. So you guys know, about 8:45. So in about 15 minutes, roughly, I'm going to jump back on. And, yeah, we'll have a good time. Thank you so much. I hope to see you guys in the chat. As always, remember what Josh, my buddy from Mysteries Unknown, always says. He says, stay prayed up. Remember what I say, guys. Always remember, legends begin with a sighting. And Natalie, in about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Have a nice night, guys.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?